Have you ever thought of something that's so true, but you don't think about it unless it happens to you all of a sudden? And it's how people change when they feel safe and how quickly they change when their safety or that safety is taken away. When life is normal, when everything feels stable, we don't think too deeply. We make plans, we focus on our routines, we assume tomorrow will come exactly how we expected it. But slowly and without even realizing it, our dependence shifts. It shifts away from God and towards the things around us, which are like our income, our schedule, our sense of control, and it's subtle. You don't wake up one day and decide, I'm going to rely less on God. It actually just happens over time. You delay a prayer here, you become distracted there, you stop feeling urgency, not because you don't believe in God, but it's just because you just feel safe enough. And that feeling of safety can actually be very deceiving. Because this dunya, this life was never meant to be stable. And every once in a while, something happens that reminds us of that. Something big, something that shakes people, and suddenly you just see a shift. People who weren't praying start praying. People who were always like distracted, they suddenly start reflecting. People who just felt distant suddenly just feel close again. And it just makes you wonder what changed, because God didn't move. We did. Fear just removed the illusion. It stripped away the distractions and forced us to confront what we were avoiding. And that's a hard truth, because it means that sometimes it's not hardship that brings us closer to God. It's clarity. And clarity that this life is temporary. You have to understand that. Clarity that control was never really ours. Clarity that everything we depended on was just never guaranteed. And if that's the case, then there's an even deeper question that we need to ask ourselves. Why do we wait? Why do we wait for something to go wrong before we actually turn back? Why does it take fear to make our du'as sincere? Because the connection we build in those moments, that's real. It's focused. It's present. It's actually very honest. So why isn't it like that all the time? And the answer might just be uncomfortable. It's because comfort makes us forget. Now, not completely. It doesn't let you forget completely, but just enough. Just enough to delay. Just enough to rely on ourselves. Just enough to feel like we have more control than we actually do. And that's where the illusion comes in. The illusion of safety. The illusion that because things are okay now, they will stay that way forever. But guess what? That's not how this life actually works. And deep down, we all know that. You actually feel it in those quiet moments of anxiety. You feel it when you realize how quickly things can change from one thing to another. But instead of letting that feeling guide us back to God, we try to silence it. We distract ourselves. We stay busy. We focus on control. But control was never the solution. Connection was. Because true stability doesn't just come from your circumstances. It comes from your relationship with God. And that becomes the shift that we need to make. Not just when things go wrong, but while things are still going right. To turn back to God before we're forced to build that connection before we desperately need it. Because the person who remembers God in ease, for sure and 100%, will find Him with them in hardship. So the goal isn't to wait for a wake-up call. It's to wake up without one. Even if it starts small. One sincere dua, one prayer with focus, one moment of reflection. Because those small steps are what build a real connection. And that connection is the only thing in your life that will not collapse overnight. Everything else can change, but that won't. And that's where real peace comes from. There are many times in our life where we're going through situations and we always think that, well, I wish God was with me right now. But then you just remember that you were never with God yourself throughout your entire life. Not even in any moment. Nothing in your life, nothing of what you did connected to God. And then at that moment of hardship, you realize, you know what? I've wasted all my life. I've done this and I've done that. But I have not really, really sat down and connected with God. So why? Why wait for those moments? Do it now. Even if you feel like you're lost, even if you feel like you are so disconnected, you've never tried to actually connect in the way that you feel like you could have done much better. Just do it. Don't wait. There is no right time. Now is the time.